The defense secretary just said there's an imminent military threat from China. No red lines for you in there. I've just, don't touch this. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
So today we've kind of been making our way down the line of Trump goons who have been on Face the Nation. And next we have Scott Bessent, of whom I probably respect the most of the Trump cabinet goons, despite disagreeing with them across the board still. But if you can leave us a like on the video, it helps us out tremendously, boosts us in the algorithm. And let's get right into the interview.
The defense secretary just said there's an imminent military threat from China to Taiwan. Days earlier, Secretary Rubio said he'd aggressively revoked Chinese student visas. On top of that, you have curbing exports to China. Trade talks, you said, with Beijing are stalled, and President Trump just accused China of violating an agreement and now says no more Mr. Nice Guy. Are you intentionally escalating this standoff with Beijing?
Well, I don't think it's intentional. I think that what Secretary Hegseth did was remind everyone that during COVID, China was an unreliable partner. And what we are trying to do is to de-risk. We do not want to decouple, Margaret, but we do need to de-risk, as we saw during COVID, whether it was with semiconductors, medicines, the other products. We are in the process of de-risking.
Funny, because when these things arose globally under Biden, MAGA said it had to be all his fault, and it's because the world sees him as weak. Now it's happening under Trump, and it's just out of our control. It's definitely not because Trump is weak, right? The entire thing stopping China from attacking Taiwan is our strategically ambiguous nature and how we would respond if they do so. When Trump is making it clear that we're isolating, we're not going to help anyone or do anything, right? Then that no longer exists. So what is the stopping force? If China attacks Taiwan, this will destroy our economy, right? It's going to have massive effects on semiconductors. This is most electronics. Anything with a chip in it's going to be affected. If you're talking about de-risking from China, and it was shown that we should during COVID, I completely agree that needs to happen, but only Democrats have taken the steps to do so. Biden brought semiconductor manufacturing back to America in a massive way through the Chips and Science Act. Trump is only scaring off this investment with the tariffs.
Where are you anticipating price increases?
Well, thus far, we wanted to make sure that there aren't price increases, Margaret, and thus far there have been no price increases. Everything has been alarmist. That the inflation numbers are actually dropping. We saw the first drop of inflation in 4 years. The inflation numbers last week, they were very pro-consumer.
Right. But you listen to earnings calls just like we do. Mm-hmm. You know what Walmart's saying, what Best Buy's saying, and what Target are saying.
Scott Bessent really is a smart man. Even when he's being disingenuous, he knows how to spew things, right? First off, I mean, core inflation has stagnated from when Biden left office. And while CPI has continued the trend down that we saw starting under Biden also, it's now at a 4-year low of 2.1%. Context is important here because it comes with a dwindling economy that is close to recession, and it dropped massive drops in consumer confidence and spending as well. A good comparison could be what we saw during COVID. We also saw inflation dropping late 2019, early 2020 when the COVID effects were the strongest, but that wasn't for the reasons that you want. That wasn't an indication of a strong, good economy. It was because the economy was shrinking, which is what's happening now. See, MAGA has made it a hard conversation to have because they want inflation to be this evil word that if, it's bad and largely because it was all that they had against Biden as an attack line, but it's not really. I mean, if it's obviously increasing over increasing, it's bad. Where it hit under Biden was bad, but you need inflation for some level of economic growth. That's pretty much what it indicates as your economy is growing. And to be clear, you do want it to be right around where it is now, like 2 to 3%. We're not in scary territory by any means, but when inflation is dropping because the economy is shrinking, that isn't a good sign.
What would you like Republican lawmakers to keep? What would you like them to alter?
Again, that's going to be the Senate's decision. Leader Thune, who I've worked closely with during this process, has been doing a fantastic job. And Margaret, I'll point out, everyone said that Speaker Johnson would not be able to get this bill out of the House with his slim majority. He got it out. Leader Thune has a bigger majority, and this is with President Trump's leadership. So
there's no red lines for you in there. I've just don't touch this. You can, tinker with that.
Well, I think that they're not necessarily my red lines. The president has the his campaign promises that he wants to fulfill for working Americans. So it's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans for American-made automobiles.
So those
Yeah, those will stay in the bill just as temporary provisions that sunset on their own in 2026, right after the midterm, so Republicans don't feel pressured to renew them and don't ever have to take a vote on it, just like they didn't with the child tax credit, all while the rich guy tax cuts get to stay permanently. If you wanted to iron out the gross deficit and debt increases this bill caused, cut out the tax cuts to the rich. Literally the easiest move possible, right? Make the working class tax cuts permanent, maybe even make them bigger if you want. Cut out the rich guy tax cuts, cut out the ridiculous spending increases in the military or on a border wall that'll do nothing, and just make it focused on the working class, right? But these are Republicans we're talking about, of course. So for every 10% they give the working class, 90% has to go to the wealthier. They're not going to be on board for it.